Hello and welcome to the Power Rock Podcast. We're only speaking with the Calgary-based punk band, the Moröns. I want to make sure you guys are in Calgary, right? That's where you, Hick City?
That is correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to make sure I got the city right because it could be a lot of different Canadian cities that are Hick cities. But I want to talk to them about their new album, The Book of Morön, which I think is potentially the best punk album of the year. We'll also be talking about some of the other great things the band has been up to, their history, and why they think Canada is so damn punk these days. If you haven't been paying attention, well, you probably need to start listening to these bands from the Great White North, eh? We will be speaking to the band about all this and more right after this.
You're listening to the Powered by Rock podcast with your host, Isaac Kuhlman. The Powered by Rock podcast was created to help showcase some of the best rock musicians in the world and to pass on to future generations the rock music that has inspired rock fans around the world for decades. We want listeners to be able to hear great stories and life experiences directly from their favorite artists, as well as dig deeper into music theory and talk rock like no other show you've ever heard. This isn't about looking cool, it's about getting real and having a great time. Without further ado, let's start the show.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Power Rock Podcast. I'm stoked to be hanging out and then bringing on Robbie and Jonny from the Canadian punk band of the Moröns today, because as they are the self-proclaimed quintessential party punk band, I think we have a lot in common. So, hey, guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. So let's kind of introduce you to the world a bit. I think a lot of people kind of maybe in Alberta and in kind of the prairie provinces of Canada might have an idea of who you guys are. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know how far and wide punk music spreads there. But I know probably a lot of Americans and maybe Europeans probably just don't know that much about Canadian punk music. So let's kind of start there and like talk about how you guys got together, how awesome you are, and kind of how the music's kind of gone so far and how you kind of started a punk band in the first place.
Well, so the Moröns actually started off as a joke band. I owned
and it
DJ
still
company.
is. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, oh, for sure. But not to the extent that it was in the sense.
Yeah.
So I used to own a DJ company, and we used to do rock and roll bingo at a bar where we would dress up like 80s hair bangers and play heavy, 80s rock and play bingo. And I kind of went all out with it and decided that we should come up with a band for it, like a fake band as the host and the DJ and stuff. And then so we would come out to the Moron Brothers by NoFX.
Yeah.
And I was going to call it the Morons, but then I thought it'd be funnier to call it the Morön, so that every time somebody called us morons, we'd be like, nope, it's Morön. And then I wrote 4 songs for a little demo that we would play on the speakers and stuff too. And they were punk songs, but they were all about bingo. So it was kind of a bingo themed punk band. And then I actually found some guys that wanted to do the music and make an actual band out of the tunes, as long as we, changed them so they weren't about bingo. Except for Rock and Roll Bingo Baby. We kept that one because that's a winner. But so that's kind of where it started years ago. And it's just kind of developed from there.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys have released, I think, 2 albums and a few EPs out of that so far, from memory, correct?
Yeah, 2 albums, and there was 2 EPs, but we scratched the first EP because it was horrible, and we took the good stuff out of that and re-recorded it.
One song.
The rest of it.
One song.
2.
Oh yeah, 2. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So 2 full albums and an EP and a single.
Yeah, and so this is kind of over the last, I want to say, 5 or 6 years from memory as well. Is that right?
Yeah, about that. I think it was 2018-ish.
Okay. So, yeah. So kind of a pretty new punk band. Were you guys playing in bands in general before that, or were you kind of just, or were you in bands early in life and then kind of decided to start a band again? How did that work out?
Myself, I mean, I've so I got into punk rock in high school, not unlike a lot of folk in around the mid 90s in the Epitaph Fat explosion that happened then, even in small town Alberta, in southern Alberta, town of about 10,000 people I grew up in. Still the skater punks found it there. So that was my intro to it. And I played in bands then and around until about my early 20s. And then I didn't play any punk rock until for a lot of years. I moved around working, etc. And until maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I was living in Calgary and got back into the scene, was playing with some bands. And so I'm actually the newest member of the Moröns. I've only been playing with these guys since right around the start of the pandemic, basically after seeing them play, and found that they were looking for band members. And there's a bit of a story there too that maybe we'll get into later. But yeah, that's
Robbie
sort of
treats everybody like shit, and then they leave the band, huh?
Well,
yeah. In short,
some fluctuation in shorts, but yeah, I mean, it's just always been kind of a part of my life, right? And and this is essentially where I landed with the boys, and it's just a great group, and it's tons of fun. I mean, listen to the songs, and you can kind of tell how much fun we're having, and that's just been a lifelong thing for me. I never really grew out of it, and I'm sure Rob's probably got a similar story for you.
Yeah, Robbie,
pretty much. Yeah, I played my first show when I was 15. We released a 6-song EP with a band that I was in when I was 15, punk band, and played all the punk shows and stuff. Calgary used to have like such a good all ages punk scene when I was a kid growing up. I'm very fortunate for that. Every weekend we'd go and watch 5 or 6 awesome bands just shred it out. And so we wanted to be a part of it, you know, at a young age, and was fortunate enough to have some friends that knew how to play, and I just screamed because I didn't know how to play anything at the time. And so and then same as Johnny, I played in a bunch of different punk bands till I was probably about 20-ish. And then it kind of fell off, and I always still enjoyed it, but couldn't find anybody to play with, and, you know, got kind of lazy in that regard, I guess.
He played with himself a lot.
Yeah. Didn't really, and that's funny because I still recorded a lot and wrote a lot of music and stuff, but I wasn't actively looking for a band. It was, I just didn't have the time kind of thing. And then when I got a little older and stuff, I don't know, maybe one of those things as you start getting in your late 30s, you're like, okay, I better do it now. Otherwise I'll never do it kind of thing. So you push yourself a little harder to find a band, and and then here we are. So.
Yeah, it's kind of like your midlife crisis. Instead of buying you didn't buy a convertible, did you start a rock band?
Yeah, the car came after.
Yeah, I mentioned this because a lot of people that are in bands now, it's like they disassembled past bands or just basically started playing again to get back into it. But it's like a lot of bands that just kind of dissolved over years. Now these new members are new bands are cropping up with members that they either kind of kicked around with or kind of knew from before, but had never really been together. So it's kind of interesting to hear that you have that same story, because it's hard to make a band just after the age of like 35, especially after 35. I mean, it's easy when you're 16, 17, because you just go ask people, hey, do you want to be in a band? And they're like, shit, I got nothing else to do. So, but now it's like, oh, I've got bills, I've got kids, I've got a wife. Like, when the hell am I going to play in a band? So yeah, it's a lot different.
Well, it did actually kind of turn out that way. It's funny you mention it, because Davey and I went to school, like elementary school and junior high together. And I remember jamming with them when we were in like grade 5, grade 6, maybe grade 7, grade 8. I can't remember, a long time ago. And so I was playing in a band before the Moröns. I was playing in a band. I was playing bass in this band, and it was an old buddy that Davey and I both knew from back in the day, growing up together in the same neighborhood and stuff. And at one point, Davey tried out for that band, and he blew my mind. I was like, yeah, this is the guy. Like, Davey's such a good guitar player, like, for sure. And then the head of the other band kind of thing, main guy, he was like, it's not really working kind of thing. I was like, okay. So then I jumped all over it. I was like, Davey, we should play some punk rock. And he was like, okay. I was like, yes. Because I really enjoyed playing in the other band, but my heart was always like, I want to play punk again. And so when Davey was out for it, I was like, yeah, because Davey, I don't know if you know the story behind Davey. He was in DeVille. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with DeVille, but if you're not, you should look up some of their old stuff. They did really well, toured a lot, and released some big stuff, and we're a really good band. And so to have Davey on the side, I was like, okay, yeah, for sure, we're gonna roll with this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then he knew Gigi, and Gigi was in some other pretty good bands as well. What was the big one he was in, Johnny?
Torches to Triggers.
Torches to Triggers, yeah, another one. They got videos up and stuff. You can look them up. They did a lot of touring and stuff as well. So all of a sudden, here I am. You know, I I played in a lot of bands, but I never played outside of Calgary kind of thing. And I'm playing with these guys that have been on world tours and everything else. And they're kind of like, why are you guys bringing me along for the ride? But don't ask questions, just roll with it.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, like I said, it's very unique. I think it's kind of especially unique since the pandemic. A lot of bands are kind of reforming and kind of reuniting or rekindling, friendships from before, and kind of walking away from bands that they just kind of didn't have much activity going along. So they kind of just started their own thing. So I do want to talk a little bit about the music, because you guys obviously have a pretty up-tempo sound, much like the skate punk from the 90s. You seem to merge it like that quick pace with some of the melodic vocals. Reminds me, like the vocals and the styling of the melodic style is a lot like Bad Religion to me, or like Mark Hoppus when he sings on the Blink side, and how he writes songs, because he can still joke about songs, but he knows that there's still like the serious side of, putting the song together and making it sound good as well. So that's kind of what I think. Is that kind of like an accurate assessment in any way? Do you guys pull kind of influences from those kind of places?
When I'm writing, I write it based on kind of like basic ideas. I'm not as talented as the other guys, so I'll record a track with the kind of basic outline of things. And then the other guys kind of make it their own, and that's where it becomes a really good composition instead of my slack little outline that I put together. But
are you putting it down on like acoustic guitar first? Sorry.
No, I have a studio here. Well, just home studio, general DAW, but I put the drums down and the bass and the guitars and everything else, and backup vocals where I want backup vocals kind of thing. So it's all laid out for the guys, but at the same sense, it's like nothing's written in stone. So other guys may have an idea to, well, let's change this up or let's change that. And then, Jonny adds a lot more to the bass line, because I just put down basic bass lines, and then the guitars get totally like way better. And then, the vocals basically stay the same until I rehash them into something a little better as well too. But my biggest idols, influence? I guess, or influence. Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think of it, but would be like the Vandals, where it's like
nice.
It's witty, but there's a lot of truth to it. It can be, you can still be political, but poke fun at it and everything else. I like to have a lot of fun with it. I mean, I do like a lot of punk bands that are serious and everything else, and that's most of them, let's face it. But at the same time, it's like, for me, I see it like life is so bloody serious all the time. There's so much crap in the world, and I could either focus on that, or I could poke fun of it and try and laugh at it best I can and try to give people a laugh. For me, when I want to be entertained, I want to laugh. I want to forget everything else and I want to laugh. So that's kind of how I approach my writing for the most part too.
Yeah. And that's an interesting influence, because I still remember this song. I forget the name of it, but it's something, clowns are neat, clowns are fun, clowns are loved by everybody or everyone. That was like one of my favorite Vandal songs. He's like, Bozo? Or like, was he like Bozo? No, I don't know Bozo, but I wish I did, though. That man's a freaking genius.
He's a freaking genius.
Yeah.
Clown walks into a bar and says, make me a tree fort. Bartender says, what's in a tree fort? Clown says, Playboy books and cigars.
Yeah. It's a great little song. I haven't probably listened to that song in 20 years, but still every once in a while I'll remember it, and I'll just spout out that line like, Bozo? Yeah. I don't know Bozo or whatever, but I wish I was, though.
Freaking genius. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love that stuff, because it's just like a line like that can just stick with you, and like it's funny, but it's smart still at the same time, right? It's not like it's just like poop.
Yeah, and it's not just dick and fart jokes like half the other stuff out there.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would say, is that kind of like what your guys' kind of unique proposition for the world is? Like, that's how you stand out from other bands, is that you don't A, take yourself so seriously, but you also then B, make the music really good and actually make it like a real record, as opposed to just a comic band or something like that.
I mean, I think that's a big part of it, right? It's that kind of dichotomy that you say there. I mean, Rob is a clever lyricist, to say the least, and an excellent musician. Don't sell yourself short there, buddy. There's some fine demos come out there, but I think a big part of it, and you touched on it a bit earlier too. You mentioned kind of how varied the latest album sounds too. You know, it's tight, and we work extremely hard on the songs. We're very proud of them. We pride ourselves and I don't want to necessarily go out and call ourselves professionals, but we try to be as professional as possible with what we do, making our dick jokes and whatnot.
Well, you got paid once for it, right? So that makes you professional.
Yeah, well, exactly. It was in beer, but
nobody told me. Bastards.
Yeah. So let's kind of talk about, obviously, the new album, The Book of Morön, because I think it's, I don't want to say it's like a huge evolution for you guys from your previous albums, but I feel like it is a step up in like quality, just the amount of like even the marketing material behind it and the naming and the branding and all that stuff that you kind of put into it. You could see that it wasn't just like, hey, like this is just a project anymore. Like this is like something we're really taking seriously. I think your past release is really good, but this album, it just seemed more refined, bigger sounding, and it took things and it just made them overall even better. So what was the recording process for the album, and how is it different from past releases?
Rhythm section.
It's funny you bring that up, because I was actually just talking with Steve from Belvedere the other day. We actually worked together, and we were talking about
humble name drop there, no big deal.
Yeah. No, he's a good guy, and he's helped us out a lot. And Casey, he's drummer from Belvedere, and also, you know, in the circle. Yeah. He recorded it at his studios, Echo-based studios, and so he's recorded all our albums, and you can see that the quality gets a little bit better with each album. And I mean, a lot of that comes into play because we've gotten better naturally over the years, but Casey's gotten better over the years as well too. And then with during the pandemic, they recorded the last Belvedere album there, Hindsight is the Sixth Sense, and he invested in some new gear for that album alone. And then you'll see it, Trashed Ambulance recorded their last album there as well too, so you hear that same kind of quality on there. And I don't think it's like miles above the last recordings and stuff, but it's subtle enough, like it's there. And like you said, it's got just a cleaner yet heavier kind of tone to it that really kind of kicks you in the ass, which I love it. Like we asked him as well. We wanted a little bit more low end, a little more thump to this one as well too. So he was happy to do that for us, and he did it really well. Yeah,
that's cool. Cause I was, you just mentioned Trashed Ambulance, and that's going to kind of, and you mentioned Casey, who all those kind of things will start coming into some of these questions later, but I do want to talk about how you guys put the album out on High End Denim Records, which is a label fronted by another guest of ours this season from Trashed Ambulance, Josh. And you actually did a vocal feature on the song Stalk in the Park, which coincidentally beat your own song, I Want to Be a Hesher, for best single on the Punk Rock Mag Good Shit Awards.
Oh shit!
So I guess I have to ask, how much do you even like those guys in Trashed Ambulance? I mean, they're kind of fucking assholes, right? I mean,
no, they're gems, man. They're such gems.
And how is it working with them on the label side of things?
Oh, it's awesome. So I've known them for a while. We've played shows together for a while, and when I was doing, I guess. Doing a lot of solo stuff, especially during COVID and stuff. I wrote a lot of stuff I write a lot of really stupid stuff that's like beyond Moröns material, where the Moröns even look at me and I'm like, maybe not. So that's where my solo stuff comes in. And then so I write and record that, and then Josh and Ozone and I, we've worked on, before that, we worked on a side project that Trashed Ambulance has called Burning Nickels. Yeah. I'm not sure if you've heard that one yet, but I did bass and backup vocals on a lot of their stuff as well. So then when I did my solo stuff, they asked if I wanted to release it under their label and stuff. And so I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. It's just sitting here doing nothing. So they did that as well. And then when it was time to, they did so much for my solo stuff as far as getting it out there to, stuff that I would have never been able to. And I tried with the Today's Special album when we put that out, I tried doing the same thing that they did. I was like, okay, I'll take a page out of their book and really try to release it out to more blogs and podcasts and stuff. And I got like no return on it. So then with this one, we're like, okay, well, let's try it under High End Denim and see what they do. And sure enough, here we are with you. We would have never had this opportunity here if it wasn't for them sending it along and stuff. So they've been really good that way, and they're awesome dudes. Very laid back.
And I actually don't even remember if they were the ones that introduced me to your album or not, but I'm sure because of just knowing them and of them probably led me to you guys, because I think in the end, you being featured on that song "Stock in the Park" was and how I learned about who the fuck are the Moröns and why aren't they just called Morons?
Yeah. we had one guy review the first album, and he just totally attacked our name. He's like, it's spelled with an umlaut and pronounced Moröns. I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, I truly think that if you speak German in the umlaut, I don't know if it would be pronounced Morön, but it doesn't matter. Like that's the whole point, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's part.
It'd be like maroon or something like that.
Yeah, maroons.
All right.
What a maroon.
I think maroon was taken.
So
they're all taken. That's why we had to throw an umlaut on it.
Exactly. So I mean, you have to have some sort of search, whatever you like, differentiation on like Spotify and Google, right?
Exactly.
So you guys have many great songs on the Book of Morön. And I want to dig into a couple of them specifically because I feel like you've done a really good job of being comical, like we mentioned, but also not making the songs too jokey. And it's a fine line because even bands like NoFX toe that fine line at times with their songs, and not always in a good way. Like sometimes you're like, that's fucking stupid. And other times you're like, okay, now you're just making it way too serious. So it's like you got to kind of toe that line, right? But let's start with the song Cable, because I find it to be an absolute gem of a song. For anybody who doesn't know, essentially it's a song about not wanting to break up with a girl who happens to have premium cable so that you can watch your shows like on HBO and stuff. But what was it like, and was it written about? So first, take me through the songwriting process on this one. Was it written about a real life relationship or just a bit of a spoof on society?
You know the story on this one, don't you, Johnny?
That's all you, Robbie. I sort of know it, but I couldn't recant it as well, I don't think.
So it's full marks and credit go to Gigi Morön on that one. We were playing a house party one year, and we were all completely schlitzed and getting a ride back. And Gigi was in the back of the van, and I don't even know. I'm not sure anybody was even talking to him. I'm not sure. Or no, somebody was talking to him. I think Davey and him were having a conversation in the back. I had zoned out, but then I just caught the last line of it. So they're chatting back and forth, and then we kind of go quiet in the front seat, and all I hear is Gigi in the background is, "Oh no, man, he'll never leave her. That bitch got cable." And I laughed my ass off. I was like, "That's a brilliant idea for a song." So it is kind of based on a true story. I don't know who it's about or anything else, but genius.
That's funny. I mean, it essentially is then like a spoof on society, because that's how people are. Like they're just like, well, I'll stay with somebody for $12 a month. What the hell?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's more than that because she had HBO too. Like she had the full package. So.
Yeah.
You're not going to walk away on that, are you?
Yeah. So another one I want to speak about, and we'll start with you on this one, Johnny, because it's not about you guys writing it so much as you guys actually covering it. And that's I Want to Dance with Somebody being on this album, because even though it's a Whitney Houston cover, it's done really well. And I even said in the review that I think that it's the best punk vocal or punk cover of a female vocalist since H2O did Like a Prayer from Madonna back on their album Go, which I think was like 2000, 2001. So how did you guys go about picking this song, and how did you have the balls to actually pull it off?
Well, the selection of it, I mean, so the Moröns have a bit of a history, as maybe you do or maybe you don't know, of picking some slick covers to do. Tend to go back in the catalog a bit. Of course, the first one they did was Enya, Orinoco Flow, pretty uncommon cover maybe to select. And then of course did The Police on today's special. And then it was just a matter of picking an awesome song to do a cover that hadn't been done before. Really was a big part of it. And despite all our searching, couldn't find a really good cover of it. And it's a banger of a song. It's a great tune. So what happened was we did what we do, right? Robbie kind of made a framework for it, and we made it our own and added in some breakdowns and just turned it into the way it turned out, and we're really proud of the way it turned out for sure. And it's fortuitous timing as well, as the Whitney Houston story with the same name is about to come out in theaters in a couple of weeks. So we're hoping to cash in, basically.
Yeah, and I was actually at a Turnstile concert, and they were playing that song, not your guys' version of it, but the Whitney Houston version of it, right before they're coming out, and everybody in the crowd is singing. I'm like, yeah, everybody knows this fucking song. I mean, it's impossible not to know the lyrics of this song.
It goes off live every time. It's super fun to play.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If we can too, we're gonna throw a video together for that in the next.
I was just gonna bring that up. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you guys are putting together an open submission for the music video. So how's that going so far?
We've got a few, but we need a lot more. So
I'll throw mine in there. I'll do something stupid
awesome.
and
do it.
and I'll send it to you.
My buddy's on vacation in the Caribbean right now, and his wife's mom apparently was tearing up the dance floor, and he's got it all on video. So we're gonna have some nice mix.
Yeah, they're starting to come in a little bit. So we're trying to remind everybody, like, we want to get it done sooner than later. So yeah, send your submissions in to hickcitymorons@gmail.com. It doesn't have to be long, even like 5 seconds of is good enough.
So you can slap it in there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I'm assuming you don't want them actually singing. You just want them to essentially lip sync and dance to it or something like that.
Yeah, whatever. We'll mute it anyways. So
yeah, like we're not taking auditions to be in the band.
Yet,
not currently.
I was gonna say it might not even be the best cover that you guys have, because, like you said, you've covered Enya, The Police. I believe you also covered "So Lonely" by the Hippos, if I'm not mistaken, on your guys' last album from today's special. Is that? I'm pretty sure it's the same song.
Well, it's The Police.
Oh, so okay, you're right. So The Police, then the Hippos. Yeah. So the first time I think I heard it was
that one.
Yeah, the Hippos covered it, and then that's when I found out that it was The Police. That's right. So that's why it was like fresh in my mind as like the Hippos. But yeah, so I guess you don't have to really. I don't even know. Were you fans of the Hippos? Did you actually hear the Hippos when they were back in the?
I know one song by the Hippos, and that's their cover of "Always Something There to Remind Me," which is a great cover. But that's about all. I think I know one or two other tracks. I've heard I've really liked, but I've never really delved too deep into them.
Yeah, that's right. And then how did you guys actually end up? Well, I should say, how do you guys end up working with Casey Lewis from Belvedere? Because he was actually on that track as well. But just in general, how do you guys? Is it just a small social circle there of bands, or do you guys have like a long-term relationship with Belvedere, or just him specifically?
I mean, Casey and his studio are a bit of an institution in Calgary, right? Like, that's, if you're in a punk rock band and you want to record, that's where you go. And not even within Calgary. I mean, people come from outside of the city as well to record them. I mean, he does what he does. He does it extremely well. And I mean, that's the short answer, I guess. Rob?
He's good to work with. He takes it to another level beyond, like, not only does it sound good, but he really helps you and coaches you along. Like, if he's got any outside opinions on things, he has no problems about saying, you should fix this, you should change that, that hammer on should be a pull off, fix it, that kind of thing. Right. And
that's how we hit our harmonies. We can't sing otherwise.
Yeah. So it really is a no-brainer. We've looked around at others just to do our due diligence, but at the end of the day, it's like, nah, you're going to go to Casey. Casey knows what you're looking for. Casey knows, what kind of sound we're going for and everything else, and he knows how to get it. So
you don't kind of sounds like in Southern California, everybody goes to Cameron Webb, who puts out like every punk album that's been made in like Southern California area, pretty much. So yeah,
and there's reasons, right? So, and it's the same thing here. There's no reason really to go anywhere else. So he's a good guy.
8 blocks from my house. That's pretty good.
Yeah. You just
ride my bike there.
Carry your bass on your bike.
All right, now in the snowstorm. It is Canada.
Well, you just put some treads on there, some like tank treads,
some studded bike tires. There's people do that.
You did bike to the studio the one day.
I did.
Then we went to the bar after, and you had to bike to the bar.
Right, and I'm a responsible alcoholic.
Yeah. Yes. You can only get a BY then. Speaking of drinking and going to the bar, this leads directly into my next question, which is, I have to ask you, because you guys have a few songs about beer, and while the newest song, On the Pill, is about drinking, it's not about being on birth control. It's actually about drinking non-fancy beer. You also kind of started that journey of talking about drinking even as far back as probably one of the first songs you guys did, which was 5 on a Sixer from your first EP. First of all, I really appreciate that the song doesn't talk shit about Pilsners, because when I go out, I just want to drink a shitload of beer, and I don't care if it's fancy or, costs $9 and has 9% alcohol or whatever. But my first question to this is, who the hell splits a 6-pack of beer?
So going way back, I'll answer this one because Johnny wasn't in the band yet. But yeah, I would, on jam nights or something, if one of the guys was like, yeah, I'm on my way, and I'd be like, I could go for a couple beers today. I don't want to get drunk or anything, but, just pick up, one of those $10 6-packs or whatever, one of the cheap ones or whatever, and I'll split it with you. And so I would just text him back, 5 on a Sixer, ? And then made a song out of it. So,
because for a quintessential party band, a party punk band, I would assume that what you really meant to say was split like a 30-pack, because that's like a 6-pack is like an appetizer. You're just starting.
Yeah, well, the song stands true. It starts off 5 on a Sixer, and then 20 minutes later, somebody's running to the beer store to get a case, and like.
Yeah, and then obviously talk to me about your fandom of Pilsners from this song, On the Pill, because I'm right there with you in the sense that it's not that I don't like microbrews. It's just I go to a bar and I'm like, I just drink whatever, like the cheapest thing in there is like, it's 5.5%. I'm good with that. Let's drink that thing. What's wrong with that? So talk to me about your Pilsner fandom.
So this is because I'm drinking one right now, and if you're not from Western Canada, maybe you don't know about the fantastic. So this is Pilsner brand beer, which, funny enough, I think is more of a lager than a Pilsner than anything.
Yeah,
but this is,
I really can't tell you the difference between a Pilsner and a lager anyway. So
they're all delicious, and this was always the we used to call it Skaterade back in the day, but it was always the cheapest beer that you could get, and it's just what we grew up drinking and still do. And this is what you'll find in the band fridge more often than not. So yeah, when Robbie was going for On the Pill, it's funny because specifically it is sort of referencing this exact brand of beer that we drink, that we are looking for a sponsorship for, Old Style Pilsner of Canada. Please pay attention. But it's funny because it's got a global reach, and we've had some other interviews and write-ups and such that have referenced that song about just as a general Pilsner, right? So it is. Yeah. I just hit a hi-hat there beside me.
Have you sent them the song and said, this is your new commercial? Go put it on.
We should, is what we should do, to be fair. There you go. And then Rob will talk about High River Brewing Company, our second favorite beer company out there.
I almost got fired for that song. I work at a brewery.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Like, how could you do this to us? You're like, no, man, it's generic. Yeah, it's not about that brand.
Well, it's a joke, right? And it is funny because I mean, when we're jamming, we got 5 guys now as a 5-piece. We're pounding through the beers pretty quick. So yeah, we want something cheap and easy going, right? And yeah, Johnny is usually the guy. He's our Lord and Savior, praise boner, and he would always show up with like a 2, 4, or 30-pack of Pilsner. And so I was like, yeah, why would we do anything else?
That's how I got past the audition.
Exactly. And that's, and then so we all just got used to just having Pilsner because that's what Johnny brought all the time. And he was the first one to bring the beer and stuff. So, we wrote a song about it and everything else. And I have been in that position sometimes. Like, I mean, I love craft beer. I do. But there's some days where you just don't want to look at a menu. You just want something cold and okay. And cheap.
Yeah. When you can just say, bring me Pilsner, and they know exactly what you're talking about, then you're good.
Yeah. Bring me a beer. Yeah. What kind of beer? I don't care. Just a cold one.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to simultaneously ask you a question and admit to an error that I made in episode 8 of one of my In the Spotlight series this year when I asked another Canadian punk band, Handheld, about the song Old Timers, which really confused the shit out of them because they didn't write it. You guys did. But I had been listening to both of your albums in the same week and got them mixed up. So I have to ask you guys, since you actually did write the song, is one of you guys in an adult hockey league, and do you actually dominate it like the song Old Timers suggests?
No. I imagine sometimes that if I was playing old timers, that's the guy I would be. I played a lot of minor hockey. Started playing hockey when I was like 5. And then by the time I was like 15, that's when I stopped playing hockey and started playing in bands and stuff. And then never really looked back. I still do a little bit of pickup here and there and coaching my son's ball hockey league and stuff like that. But always kind of wanted to go back into it and stuff. But so part of that song has some true reference to it. And then the other half of it is completely made up. So
It's like a fantasy.
Yeah. I think I would be really good.
But
Like
we all
a
know that
mediocre
guy.
life fantasy.
It-
Like, I want to
yeah,
put some rec
exactly.
league.
Old timers and rec league hockey and beer league hockey is just such a huge, that's a part of our culture up here, right? So we all know that guy. We are that guy. Some of us. I mean, I started playing hockey again the same time I got back into punk rock, but I'm garbage. I puked the first time I got back on the ice from skating, not from drinking. Puked after too from drinking.
So are you guys fans of the Letterkenny and like Shoresy series then?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I am anyway.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love it. And just how they always reference like, oh, it's a whale shit league or whatever. Like it's whale shit hockey. It's like,
Yeah.
speaking of shit, these segues are just making themselves today. I've never,
gorgeous.
this is perfect. You guys did actually do some touring in Canada to promote the album, including a co-headlining tour with Trashed Ambulance called the S.H.A.R.T or Shared Album Release Tour. So how was the tour and how did you guys have you guys ever played any shows in the US or do you ever plan on hopping the border to play some shows here?
I mean,
How was the tour, Johnny?
the tour was fun. I mean, we love getting out and playing the shows. It was our first time getting as far west as we went. We went all the way to Vancouver and played a show with some great local bands there too. Blacked Out and You Big Idiot. It's fantastic. And obviously traveling with our buddies in Trashed Ambulance. I mean, we play around in Alberta a lot together. We played a ton over the summer and with the ties with the record label, etc. It's just good times all together. With regards to expanding tours and going farther, absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty sure Gigi can't cross the border, but there's somebody we can pay to take care of that. But,
there's ways around that.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. There's the tunnels and whatnot. But
Yeah,
I mean, playing shows is the funnest part of all of this, right? I mean, we're not paying our mortgages with this band. We're out there to go out and have fun, and that's what we did, and that's what we do, and a blast.
I'm sure those bands in the 80s, like, the Metallicas, Guns N' Roses, not necessarily maybe those guys, but bands of those ilk, I'm sure they had criminal records in multiple countries, yet they could still travel abroad. So there's got to be ways around it.
We'll figure it out.
There is actually. It's funny. Again, talking to Steve the other day, he runs merit-based booking, and so he brings a lot of bands in and stuff. And he flat out said, he's like, yeah, some of them, depending on what they did and stuff. There's usually, I think there's like a fee you can pay. Like I think like basically you have to get your work visa or something, and there's like a fee on top of it to get across the border if you've got
like a criminal penalty fee.
Yeah, exactly. Depending on what it is. I mean, obviously they're not going to let just anybody go by, but if it's something minor, which if it's Gigi, it's going to be more than minor. It's probably
You can find someone south of the border to play. Every time I've seen Strung Out in Canada for the last 5 years, Jake has never been out playing, so I think he's got some border issues. It's funny.
Interesting.
now you're stirring up controversy here. And just to be clear, Gigi doesn't
Strung Out. And
we're picking up.
Well, I will say I just saw Strung Out like a month and a half ago, and I don't think Jake was there either. So
he does play.
I don't know if it's just a border thing. I don't know what's going on, but maybe he's just bored and doesn't like the tour.
He's waiting for his spot in the Moröns, but he's not getting it.
If only they call me.
Yeah. All right. So obviously you just released this album. You've kind of released other new music recently. Are you guys planning on putting out any other new music soon? Or are you guys kind of going to kind of do more promotion for the Book of Morön still in 2023?
Yes.
So we played our last show of that spread out tour 2 months ago, and tonight is going to be our first time seeing each other. We got a jam tonight for the first time in 2 months, so we basically just wanted to take a break after that and then kind of regroup. But obviously we want to get that video rolling and get that video out and pump the track up while the movie's coming out.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of regroup and see what we want to do. Usually around this time, like in the winter and stuff, it's just best for us. We'll start writing some new stuff and jamming some new stuff out and play with that a little bit. But then we don't have enough funds to record this year yet, so we'll probably have to play some more shows this year and then record next year, maybe, or late next year. We're getting close, so we'll see. But we pay for everything out of the shows and stuff like that. We don't fund it ourselves, so. No need
to go like in debt to like start recording. It's like let the band pay for itself.
Those Spotify,
yeah. Well, I know that like obviously with the new music video, with the On the Pill song, what you really need to do is tell Josh from Trashed Ambulance and High End Denim Records to get his shit together and pitch these to these. I want to be on the soundtrack for the new Whitney Houston movie. I want to be on every commercial for Pilsner brand beer in Canada. Like that's his job, man. Get him on it.
we can call him right now. We can get him on here and we can all yell at him together.
They're really good at getting the word out and stuff, but they're pretty low funds as well. So
and it's not like he's like, got the contacts and connections to Whitney Houston's team or anything like that. But
not yet.
You put it out in the world, you never know what you can get back. You'd be surprised. There's things that you just say, hey, I want to do this, and within reason usually can make it happen somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right. So I know you guys have a cold ass Canadian winter coming upon you, but do you have new shows booked, or are you guys pretty much just like going to take the winter off? I think there's a lot of hibernation going on for a lot of bands in this winter because they're like, we just played a shitload over this summer and spring and fall. So we're just going to lay back, play music and get back to like recording soon.
When is this airing?
This will be actually, I don't know, next week, I think actually. Yeah. Next week, Monday.
Okay. Can I reveal something to you? And if it doesn't go through, you can cut it.
Sure. You're gonna go ahead.
We just got put on a Calgary show for Mad Caddies on February 23rd, I believe it is. So
nice.
So we got a show in Calgary. It's our first show in Calgary actually since last April, or since this past April. So it'll be almost a year since we played in our hometown here. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then after that, I do a lot of little festivals and stuff like that I put on. Sonar is one of them, and then I've got another one that I'm working on that's top secret that I want to put us on in June. Nice. So we'll probably do a couple in the area, and then I don't know, we'll see. Like I said, we'll jam tonight and we'll see if we want to. We're kind of, I don't know, we're in no rush, I guess, right? We played everywhere last year, so
you're right on.
Playing with the Mad Caddies is pretty cool though.
That'll be fun. We're really looking forward to that one for sure. But you hit the nail on the head. In the winter months here in Canada, I mean, you don't want to be touring. You got to drive 300 kilometers or 200 miles. Was that
roughly?
To even the next closest town. So it can be tough. So it's a good time to hunker down and work on new music, basically, which is kind of the plan. And we'll hit the shows again once the snow melts.
Yeah, I grew up in North Dakota, so I know exactly how it is. The shit is awful. That's why I don't live there or anywhere near there anymore. I live in Las Vegas.
You made a nice move, man.
I used to ride my bike into North Dakota when I was a kid. Funny, my dad worked on the border for customs. We used to ride into Pembina, Manitoba, or Pembina, North Dakota to go to the tasting.
And you just go, what the fuck am I looking at? This is garbage. And then you ride right back.
Right back
like
to the same town on the other side of the border.
I can feel the stench of no public health care.
Yeah, don't get hit on your bike on the other side of the border. That's all our parents told us.
Awesome. So we'll put music. We'll put links to the music in the show notes below this episode. But do you have anything else that you'd like to plug? Any shout outs? I know you wanted to talk about your guys' website and stuff like that, or anything else you wanted to say before we go today?
No, I mean, if you like us, please go to our website and buy merch. It helps us put out new music. So like I said, we don't pay out of our own pocket. When the merch money and the show money goes to pay for the new music. So if we're playing shows and we're selling merch, then we can release new music. But if we're not selling anything, then and we don't tour exclusively. Like, we're not all over the place. So it'll be a while before we get to Vegas, unless Isaac pulls some strings for us over there. But.
I'll get you Trashed Ambulance, the Moröns, bunch of other Canadian bands, and I'll just have a Canadian punk fest in Las Vegas.
Can Fest. Let's do it.
You guys' website is at hickscitymorons.com. Is that right?
HickCityMoröns.com. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. When you spell it, it doesn't have the umlaut though, right? So they don't misspell it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. One last question before we sign off. What new music, particularly from this year, especially, you can just pick one if you want. What new music would you recommend people check out?
Oh man, I've been listening to the new Cigar record like nonstop. I love
Visitor. Yeah, it's really good.
album. Like I loved what was the original self-titled, the one with Mr. Hurtado and all that on?
I don't know. It's like 25 years ago. It's so long ago.
I know. I loved that. And then when I found out they were getting back together again, I was so stoked. And yeah, I've had Visitor on basically.
Yeah, I think it might have been self-titled, but yeah, like I said, it was literally like 23 or some years between albums, and I was like, who does that?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's been mine, and of course our local buddies, Trashed Ambo, that's been on the playlist big time for sure.
Yeah, Future Considerations, the name of that album.
Yeah.
What about you, Robbie?
I know there's some that I've been listening to, but nothing's really coming to mind. So I'll plug Johnny's other band there. Check out Short Straps. They got a EP on High End Denim Records as well. And then our drummer has a band called Upside Down Man. They're fantastic. They're going in to record with Casey in January, actually. So they'll have some new music for you, probably around spring, late winter. So keep your ears open for that. They're fantastic as well. So.
Yeah. And just in general, a lot of the high-end denim bands, high-end denim records bands are quite good. I mean, the quality is getting even better. It seems like every time I hear another album come out, I'm like, it's better than, some of the releases that were 6 months ago versus now. Yeah. It's like, it's pretty cool. So
yeah,
I look forward to
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
They're getting a lot more bands reaching out to them now and stuff too. I'm kind of a volunteer with the label as well. So they've hooked me up to their social media. And so I see the messages coming in constantly of other bands and stuff. So I don't touch them, but I get to see them.
Yeah. It's like, fuck you. You can't have my spot. I'm on the roster.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for being here. Robbie and Jonny from the Moröns for being on the show today. Make sure to go to the show notes below this episode to check out the music, because they're a band that I think you'll hear about more in the future. But if you haven't heard this album, The Book of Morön, definitely go check it out. Obviously, it's a play on the title, The Book of Morön, which is a play from the South Park creators. I think it's only a matter of time before more people are going to start to find out about you guys. And also remember, guys, the Powered by Rock podcast is powered by our listeners. If you want to show us some support, please be sure to subscribe and share the podcast on social media. You can also make a donation to the podcast to help us keep making some awesome episodes with awesome guests. Not necessary, but always appreciated. You can find that link in the show notes as well. You can also find the video interview for this chat. So many stumbles there, but you can also see the full video interview on our YouTube channel and now on Spotify as well. If you want to check out some of our articles, album reviews, lists, and interviews, go to poweredbyrock.com to read our absolutely free rocking blog. Also find our merch and gear as well, so you can pick up some items to play and look like a rock legend. And that's our show for today. Another slip up. I don't usually mess up that many times, but we'll see you soon for the next episode. Until then, rock on.
Supposed to be